today's scripture on my phone, second scripture comes from James chapter 2. We got 5 through 18 here. This is James speaking to the church. Listen to me, dear brothers and sisters. Hasn't God chosen the poor in the world to be rich in faith? And aren't they the ones who will inherit the kingdom God promised to those who love him? But you dishonor the poor. Isn't it the rich who oppress you and drag you into court? Aren't they the ones that slander Jesus Christ, whose noble name you bear? Yes, indeed. It is good when you obey the royal law as found in scriptures. Love your neighbor as yourself. But if you favor some people over others, you're committing a sin, and you're guilty of breaking the law. The person who keeps all of the law except for one is still guilty of breaking the law. For the same God who said, "You shall not commit adultery," also said, "You shall not murder." So if you murder someone but you don't commit adultery, you've still broken the law. Sorry, guys. So whatever you say or do, remember that you will be judged by the law that sets you free. There will be no mercy on those who don't show mercy. If you have been merciful, God will be merciful when God judges you. What good is it, dear brothers and sisters, if you say you have faith but don't show it by your actions? Can such a faith save someone? Suppose you see a brother or sister who's without food or clothing, and you say, "Goodbye, have a good day, keep warm and well fed," and then you don't give that person any food or clothing. What good does that do? So you see, faith by itself isn't enough. I'm going to read that again. So you see, faith by itself isn't enough. Unless it produces good deeds, it is dead and useless. Now somebody might argue, some people have faith, other people have deeds. But I say, how can you show me your faith if you don't have any good deeds? So I am going to show you my faith by what I do. The word of God for the people of God. I really like it when scripture is real clear, obvious, there's no metaphor, it's just telling you what's up. Why do you treat the rich nice? They're the ones who are cheating you. Why do you treat the poor badly? Didn't I already say that they get the kingdom of heaven in the end? It's sort of a big holy duh. There's a way to phrase things in Greek where the answer to the question should be yes. And there's another grammatical thing where the answer to the question should be no. So it's kind of like, when your mom says, like, "Do you need that second cookie?" You know the answer to that question, because of the way she said it, is good. Excellent. Or when your beloved says, "You're not going to wear that to church this morning, are you?" We know the answer to that is no. Of course not. Right, of course not. I put it on just to air it out from the closet. I have no idea what I was thinking, right? Or like, "You can pick me up for church, right?" We know the answer to that question is yes, right. So we have this sort of in our language. In Greek, it's actually a different tense. So if someone's writing, they expect a yes or they expect a no. So when James is asking these questions, let me get back to where we are here. Hasn't God chosen the poor in this world to be rich in faith? Yes, duh. Are they not the ones who will inherit the kingdom of heaven? No, the poor, look at that. But you dishonor the poor. Isn't it the rich who oppress you and drag you into court? Yes. Aren't they the ones who slander the name of Jesus Christ, whose noble name you bear? Oh, they are. Look at that. Yes, indeed. Just in case you didn't get it, he's going to say yes for you. Yes, indeed. This is all true. The person who keeps part of the law, but not all of it, will still be judged. And then he goes on with, what good is it if you say you have faith, but don't show it by your actions? We probably know the answer to this question. No good. Yeah. Or you say, is it any good if you have faith, but not actions? no, that's not right. And then I like the last line. You could go ahead and try to show me your faith without any actions. Good luck. I'm going to show you my faith by what I do. Right? Like this is right in your face. This is if God could do the snap, or James, or whoever said this, then that is what God would do. I'm going to show you my faith by what I do. So this isn't rocket science. It's something we all are familiar with and something we all have heard for a long time. This is not news to anybody. And there's a thing that we all kind of feel when we want to help someone, that we're nervous that maybe we'll do it wrong, or we're intruding on their independence or something. Like, I've definitely had the experience where I want to help someone, and then I hold back for some reason that I kind of can't, I just get a little nervous or weird, and then the opportunity passes, and I'm like, okay, well, I did what I could, but no, I didn't. Just kidding, I chickened out, and I feel kind of grappy about it, but like, what are you gonna, anybody ever been there? You really wanted to help, and then it was like, what if because what do we worry about when we want to, let's say the person in front of you in the checkout line is swiping their card over and over again, and it's coming up empty, like their credit card is not working. What do we worry when we're, and this is an interactive thing. If you want to help them, but you hold back, what do you worry about? Offending them, right? Rejection, right? It might say, I don't need your help. Feeling guilty, right? Embarrassed, right? You might make the embarrassment worse, kind of thing is the thing we're worried about. Yep. Anything else? Will it run into my bank account? Right. Do I have enough money, or am I going to be the second person swiping their card over and over again? It's a good thing to know. If so funny story. This is part of the reason that this sermon came to me is because my wonderful boyfriend and I were in France this 2 weeks ago. I've been laryngitis-y for 17 days, but before that, we went to France, and it was awesome. We saved our pennies. We had a really good time. We had lots of time to talk in the car as we're winding through the Pyrenees Mountains, where the roads are roughly wide enough for one car, but 2 cars and motorcycles and bikes go on them around the Pyrenees. It was a hair-raising experience. And at some point, I had wanted to help someone, and I forget the exact context, and didn't. And we were talking about it as we rounded these curves. And Kevin said very logically, you don't speak any French, and you don't know how to buy things at a grocery store in France. So if that person was struggling, he was not meaning to be this insulting, you might kind of be the last person who could help them, right? It's nice that you wanted to help, but un peu on French, and je ne sais on how to use, the French credit card system. So had I wanted to help, but had I actually tried to help, who knows? I probably would have been pretty useless. And I thought to myself, even if I, generally am not the most qualified person, I'm always the one who's running towards somebody in crisis or somebody with a problem. It is not my business at all, and I will totally get in their business to try to help them. I think this comes from having 2 helper parents, there they are, they're wonderful, who taught me to help and taught me I could. I think some of it is I learned from my mom that short Irish women can basically get whatever they want. You're just you be a little bit charming and too small to punch. And you can do a lot of things that big guys can't do, right? Because if I come in and I broke up a fight between 2 6-foot-tall women who were trying to go to blows when I worked at Alternatives for Battered Women. Now it's Willow, but I worked at a domestic violence shelter. And I think 25-year-old me stepped in between and, stopped them. And was like, ladies, let's not fight, blah, blah, blah. I'm looking up at them, and they each outweigh me by several Katie Joes. And later, and they did calm down miraculously enough, but later my coworker was like, Katie Jo, don't ever do that again. They could just squish you if they started to wrestle. You don't do stupid things. I'm like, all right, I can't do stupid things. So sometimes my desire to help gets me in situations where I, then have to back out quietly or, apologize or something. But usually, even someone who kind of overdoes it like me, usually people are glad for your help. Like, we think about if we're going to help wrong, like the quality of our help, right? We might mess something up, we might embarrass them, we might do something that, is culturally insensitive and we didn't know it. And it's true that, like, people in wheelchairs don't want you to just grab their wheelchair and push it somewhere, usually, right? You can ask, would you like help? Could I help you with that? But in general, if someone needs help and we see it, we worry about how it's going to come off, and they are just thankful for any help that you can give. Even if it isn't perfect, or you're just another non-French speaking, non-purchasing person in a grocery store in Agen who doesn't know how to work it's called I think it's called the helping paradox. Hold on, I took a little note here so I can make sure that I got this right. So there's been some good psychology out there by Amit Kumar, who helps us understand that the helping paradox is that the person who wants to help cares about if it's the right kind of help and if they're going to do it right. The person who needs the help does not care about that at all. They care that someone would care to stop. So even if you pull over on the side of the road and you don't have a car jack and you can't change a tire, that person is still thankful you pulled over for them. Like, even if you're kind of useless, because you could wait with them, or you could call 911. And in fact, the history of this phenomenon, some people might know. Does anybody know the bystander effect? Have we heard this? My mom is nodding her head. Okay, good. At least I learned everything from mom and dad, so it's good that they know what I'm talking about. So in 1964, Kitty Genovese was a bartender, and she went home late at night and was unfortunately raped and murdered. And 37 people, the New York Times published the next day, 37 people were around and either heard her scream or saw something or, knew that something bad was happening, and they didn't do anything. Why? Because there were 37 of them. Somebody else is going to do something, right? This is the psychology and so later it was reported that the New York Times kind of overemphasized that, and their reporting might have been a little shoddy. But the nice thing that it did was that it started the idea of like mob mentality, and that if we're in a crowd, we kind of expect other people to do stuff, and that actually isn't helpful because all of us assume that somebody else is going to do stuff. And one of the things that came out of that really terrible experience was 911 was created after Kitty Genovese was murdered, so that you didn't have to know the number of your local police department, and you didn't have to have information. 911 is everywhere. If you have a phone and you can dial 3 numbers, you can help somebody. And so her murder, as terrible as it was, people at least learned from it, which is good. Like, if I ever get killed, please learn whatever lesson was there in my death. Don't make it a waste, because I would be really ticked from the grave. So Kitty Genovese was murdered. It was terrible. And now we know, I say we as sort of humanity, that we cannot rely on anyone else in the crowd to do the thing that is right. If there's a big crowd of people, tell yourself, I'm the only one who's actually gonna help. So my mom taught me this in an interesting way. This is what short Irish women do. She said, if you see something bad happen, and someone's like hurt or whatever, you take charge of the situation, which I'm good at, and you point to someone. You say, you call 911. Is anyone else a doctor? And you start ordering that. Now, mom's a nurse, so she could actually help people having a medical crisis. I faint at the sight of blood, so I might need help during a medical crisis. But nonetheless, I imbibed this information. And in college, we had like an on-the-street soup kitchen. And we would go out with like hot dogs and goulash to the Liberty Pole twice a week and feed people who were either homeless or just getting on and off the bus and hadn't had dinner, which is a lot of folks at that particular junction. And Liberty Pole at night can get a little rough. Don't know if y'all have been there. So one day, we started unloading our crock pots of pasta and our hot dogs, and a buck-naked man who was having a schizophrenic episode strolled right in and started yelling at us. And then he took the trash can, like those big, city trash cans that are like bolted, and he picked it up with super strength and like launched it. He also had shaved himself from head to toe, which just, in case anyone was wondering if he was really naked, oh yeah, he was. So I was like, all right. So I pointed to a guy with a phone. You, call 911. And he was like, am I calling 911? I was like, my mother said that if I pointed at you and said, call 911, that you would, and then I would get, so instead, everybody just fled, right? And he is in the little bus terminal thing waiting, and everyone else just was, they just got 10 feet away, except for me. And I'm like, okay, Katie Jo, you should not interact with a naked man having a schizophrenic break in public. You should call the police since nobody else is. So I called the police, and then, they said they'd be right there. And then I hung up my phone, and then I don't know if it was because I was at Roberts Wesleyan and had like a purity thing or whatever, but I offered the man a napkin if he wanted to cover up, right? I was like, it's cold out. It's January, by the way. It is cold, and this man is naked. And so I was like, we have lots of big napkins. Would you like to maybe put one on yourself? And he took it and danced with it instead. And then finally the cops got there, and I was like, this is all through my childhood. I really thought that if I took charge in a crisis, that people would do what I said, and that I would be the hero of the day. Instead, I'm just the weirdo offering a napkin to a naked man on the bus. So it doesn't always turn out the way that you want it to turn out. And Reggie, the naked guy, probably did not appreciate my help or my suggestion of the fig leaf or anything like that. So, should I still stop helping people because that happened? No. I probably should just not point at someone and tell them to call 911 when I could just be the person to do it. And smarter, older me says there's a man somewhere that can deal with this guy and not be in nearly as much danger as 90-pound me was at that time, right? So I could have recruited help rather than been the one to hang out with him until the cops came. Things we learn. I'm still not going to stop helping people because 99% of the time they are not naked and schizophrenic. They are clothed and sane and need help. And so I think it's an okay rule to just put it's safe to help anyone who is not having a psychological break and has their clothes on. And if they are naked Reggie, you can still be the one to call and help, etc. So this is the helper's paradox. When people help you, you just care that they helped. When we go to help other people, we worry that it's not going to be perfect. But I bet we can all remember a time when we really needed help, when we were in a rough situation, and somebody stopped to help us. Think for a minute. Does anybody have these? You can go ahead and tell about it. We love inspiring stories. Anybody got a time they remember when they were just in a rough spot and somebody helped them out? Go ahead.
I was driving to one of my clinical rotations when I was in PA school, and it was in Wisconsin in the middle of January, and the temperature had not been above 0 degrees for the entire month.
Whew. For those who need a little extra volume, she's driving. Oh yeah, look at that. There's a microphone. She's driving to clinical. It's cold as cold can be in Wisconsin.
I was driving to my clinical rotation, and my car engine shut off on the highway. And this was in the days before smartphones.
And I had left my unsmart phone at home that morning with my husband. And I was stranded on the side of the highway in sub-zero degree weather with a car that wouldn't turn on and no phone. Yikes. And there was a chain link fence next to the highway where there was a poor area of the community. So it was, very run down, a lot of abandoned buildings, and there was a man walking along the fence. And I was a little bit nervous because I thought that, this person was either going to make fun of me. I mean, there was a fence in between us. I wasn't really afraid he would hurt me, but I thought he might laugh at me. I thought that he might, say something rude. Instead, the man walked up to the fence and he asked if he could help me. And I told him the situation. He said, "Here, use my phone." And he took his little brick Nokia phone and shoved it through the fence and let me call my PA mentor, who was also on her way to work, and she was able to stop and pick me up and then call a tow truck and all this. And when I gave the phone back to him, I said, "Thank you so much for helping me. What's your name?" And he said, "Me? They call me Brother Love." And he walked away.
Of course they call him Brother Love.
And I've always wondered what happened to Brother Love.
Oh, thank you. That's beautiful. And not the only one. We all have that kind of story, right? Here's the thing. The other paradox is that we all want to be helpful and don't want to ask for help at the same time. So if I want to be helpful and none of you want my help, too bad for me, right? If you want to be helpful and I'm like, "Nah, I got this. I don't need any help." Your opportunity to help is thanks anyway. Please go home. And I think that especially now when we have a loneliness pandemic, when most of us have been lonely at some point, like within the last 7 days, and felt kind of down, because we just kind of never rebuilt social interaction super well after the pandemic. We're not 100% there. Even before the pandemic, it had some rough edges. If we're lonely at home and have gifts that we want to give people, and simultaneously will not ask for help, we just stay home and stay lonely. Being independent is a total illusion. None of us got here on our own. You didn't make the clothes that you're wearing. You didn't grow and grind the coffee that you drank this morning. You didn't build the horse and wagon / SUV that you drove to church to this morning, right? We need other people. We're just used to paying them so that we don't have to need them, right? And I've seen this in doctor's offices, that doctor's offices where you can pay, and people do, not only are they clean, but people sit straight up and make eye contact with each other. When I've been in doctor's offices where it's all low-income folks and the help is all free and they can't pay for it, everybody looks down and doesn't make eye contact with each other, and the chairs are always dirtier. It's just kind of a thing. I worked briefly, 5 years? Anyway, that's not brief. I worked for 5 years at a food pantry, and during the pandemic, we had people come in that hadn't come in before, right? Before they were fine, the pandemic happens and their food security, just thousands of people in Rochester couldn't eat. And what I noticed, the most increase was we didn't have a ton of older white men who came in before the pandemic. And then once the pandemic hit and they literally couldn't get on a bus to get to the grocery store or couldn't buy their food, we kept track of who's what and different races and ethnicities and gender, all that. We had way more white men, but they would come in after 3 or 4 days of not eating, right? Because we've built our society to tell white men, you have to be able to do everything yourself and you're not allowed to ask for help, right? Women can ask for help because we're weak. Right? Impoverished people can ask for help because we all love a good pity. This is sarcastic, by the way. But if you're generally a self-help kind of person, like every, grown man is supposed to be, you're not allowed to ask for help. And so literally these men would come in, and one of them fainted in our entryway of the food pantry because he hadn't eaten for 3 days. And it took him 3 days to get over his story of himself, that he didn't need anybody's help, or that he had been a success in life, or that he, wasn't like those poor people. When, like, the pandemic was the great equalizer. We were all those poor people. I think we all had to get used to things that we didn't like, and asking for help from computer systems and people that we didn't usually ask for help for. When we put that man back up on a chair and kind of fanned him back to life, and he said he's fine, no need to don't call 911, of course, because I'm totally fine, even though I'm in my 70s and have just passed out in your food pantry. But we gave him some juice, and stuff, and he said, I really just didn't think I should be here because I have kids. They live in other cities. I couldn't ask them for help because I'm their dad, and I'm supposed to be the one providing for them. So maybe he literally said, like, maybe I should just go home, like, without food, as if the only thing he could accept from us was, like, just enough juice to get himself back to his home where he would starve. It's so sad. And it's not just a white man thing, but, like, we all want to preserve ourselves on our own, and as we get older, we have more needs. Right, to a certain point. So when you're young, you need people to do a lot of things for you. You're kind of used to that. As we grow up, part of growing up is not needing other people, we think. But that just makes us all lonely and starving. Part of growing up is being able to know when to ask for help. My family has a great, whining was not allowed in my family, and for great reason, because whining deteriorates the psyche of one's parents to the point where it's like grating upon them. Anyone who has kids, if you hear whining, your love for them plummets into the same love you have for fingernails on a chalkboard. And so we were not to whine. We had two choices if we were started to whine. My very smart parents said, you can try harder or you can ask for help. These are your choices. Whining is not a choice, because it will grate on our nerves until we don't want to be your parents anymore. They never said that part. But you can try harder, you can ask for help, and it was a real thing. And so we would think as little kids, like, okay, can I, maybe I don't want what we had for breakfast or whatever. Can I try harder and make something for myself, or should I ask for help for this? And as an adult, I feel like, man, if we could all absorb this, we'd be so much better off, right? Like, instead of whining as an adult, we just kind of go in. At least this is how I do it wrong. I go inward and try to make up reasons I don't actually need the thing that I can't get right now, right? I just pretend that me being strong is totally the answer to loneliness, a jar that I can't open in my own house. How many ladies and gentlemen have this problem? You buy something and then you can't open the jar that you bought it in. I get so mad. And I have one of those jar things that's like supposed to do it. It doesn't do it. And so, I traipse down to my downstairs neighbor and I say, hi, I can't open this. Can you open this for me? And of course they're like, yeah, great, whatever. And then we chat for 10 minutes and it's awesome. And I made their day and they made mine. And I still don't somehow learn that letting people help is like the best thing for both of us. So none of this is rocket science, but it is people science. And I think it's good to remind ourselves that if other people need help, they're not worried about us doing it right. They might be worried about being embarrassed, but it's better to be embarrassed with like a helper than embarrassed by yourself and hungry in your house, right? If the church can do anything, it can kind of reorganize our social interactions so that we're braver in helping and braver in asking for help too.